Welcome back. Take a breath. This one might feel a little close to home. Ryan Holt had a playlist on his phone that he had been building for 6 years and had never once named. He added songs to it the way some people keep a journal. Late at night, during the 40-minute train commute home, when the city blurred past the window and he let himself think without editing. Blues mostly, old country, a few film scores, a singer-songwriter from Ohio he had found at a small venue at 22 and never stopped listening to. No logic to it, no genre, no theme he could explain out loud. Just songs that felt honest when everything else in his life felt like a performance he had gotten very, very good at giving. He was 29 years old, project manager at a logistics firm downtown, decent salary, his own office, a window that faced the street, clean apartment on the 4th floor of a building with a gym he had used 3 times in 2 years, a girlfriend named Amanda who was sharp, ambitious, and always said exactly the right thing at exactly the right moment. She believed in him loudly and often. She talked about their future the way people talk about a plan already in motion. The apartment they would eventually buy, the neighborhood, the timeline. Ryan listened and nodded and felt, somewhere underneath all of it, something he could not name pressing quietly against the inside of his chest. From the outside, he had figured it out early. That was the impression he worked hard to maintain. Not through outright lies. He wasn't pretending to love someone he couldn't stand or chasing a goal that disgusted him. It was quieter than that. It was the automatic way he answered, "How are you?" "Fine, good. Yeah, things are going well." The words leaving his mouth before he had checked whether they were actually true. It was the practiced energy he brought to every conversation about work, about the future, about where he was headed. A polished, consistent performance that convinced most people and, on the better days, convinced him too. Amanda had asked early on what kind of music he liked. He said something safe. "Whatever's on, I don't really have strong opinions." She moved on. That same night, he added 3 songs to the playlist and went to sleep without thinking about why. He had 214 songs in it now. He had never played it for anyone. He didn't think much about any of this until Jake showed up. Jake Merritt had been Ryan's closest friend in college. The kind of friend you make before you have learned to be careful about what you let people see. They shared a dorm room sophomore year, stayed up until 4 in the morning, talking about things that mattered to them then and still mattered now, just more quietly. After graduation, they scattered. Ryan came to Cincinnati for the job. Jake cycled through 3 positions that never quite fit until one finally did. Park ranger at a national forest in northern Montana. He made roughly a third of what Ryan made. He lived in a small house with a wood stove, 2 acres of land, and a brown mutt named Truck who slept on the porch year-round. Jake passed through Cincinnati about once a year, usually on his way somewhere else. He texted on a Wednesday afternoon, "Coming through Saturday." "You around?" Ryan replied within a minute. "Yeah, come by." They met at a bar 4 blocks from Ryan's apartment. Low light, good beer, wide wooden booths that swallowed the street noise. Jake arrived looking exactly like himself. Flannel shirt, boots that had seen actual mud, a little more weathered around the eyes than the last visit, but otherwise unchanged. He sat down, ordered without glancing at the menu, and looked at Ryan the way Jake always looked at people, directly without cushioning it. "You look tired," Jake said. Long week, Ryan said. How's work? Really good, honestly. We just closed this account that took almost 8 months to... Ryan, Ryan stopped. Jake was watching him with a calm, patient expression. Not accusing, not worried, just waiting. Like a man who had heard this version of the conversation before and had decided tonight he wasn't going to pretend otherwise. What? Ryan said. You don't have to do the thing, Jake said. What thing? The thing where you tell me everything's solid before I've even asked how you actually are. Ryan picked up his glass, took a drink, set it back on the coaster. He thought about steering the conversation somewhere easier. Ask about Montana, ask about truck, get the evening onto familiar ground. He had done it a dozen times with a dozen people. He was good at it, but something didn't move this time. Maybe it was Jake's expression. Maybe it was the fact that this was the one person who had known him before he built all the machinery. Maybe he was just tired in a way that went deeper than the week, deeper than the job, deeper than anything he had a clean explanation for. He set the glass down. He said, I don't know if I'm happy. 6 words, quiet. No drama behind them, no collapse, no moment he had rehearsed. Just 6 honest words coming out of him on a Saturday night in a bar booth, landing on the table between them like something that had been waiting a long time for permission to exist. Jake did not react with alarm. He didn't lean forward with wide eyes or immediately start problem solving. He just looked at Ryan for a moment and said, okay. 1 word, okay, not a fix, not a judgment, just, I heard that. It's real. You're still here. Ryan stared at his hands flat on the table. His chest felt strange, not broken open, not relieved, something in between that he didn't have a word for. Like a door in a room he had not entered in years had been opened exactly 1 inch. Not enough to see what was inside, just enough to feel the temperature change. He did not know yet what those 6 words were going to set in motion, but the night was not over. And the next thing he said, the second honest sentence, the harder one, was already forming somewhere in the back of his throat. The second sentence took a while to come out. They sat in the booth for another 20 minutes after the first one. Jake ordered a second beer. Ryan nursed the same glass. The bar filled up around them. Louder now, more people. The kind of Saturday night energy that made quiet conversations feel both private and urgent at the same time. Jake didn't push. He never pushed. He just stayed present in the way that certain people are present, fully without agenda, without needing the silence to be filled. Finally, Ryan said, I think I've been living someone else's plan. Jake looked at him. Whose? I don't know. Everyone's. Nobody's. I don't know how to explain it. Ryan turned the glass slowly on the coaster. I did everything right. School, job, apartment, the whole sequence. And I'm not miserable. I want to be clear about that. I'm not miserable. But I keep waiting to feel something I still haven't felt. What's the something? Ryan thought about it. Like it's actually mine. Jake was quiet for a moment. Then he said, Do you know what you'd do instead? No. Does Amanda know any of this? Ryan didn't answer right away. That pause said everything. Jake nodded slowly. He didn't say anything else about it. They changed the subject after that. They talked about Montana, about truck, about a trail Jake had discovered last September that took 4 hours to hike and had a view at the top that he said was worth every minute. Ryan listened and felt the conversation wash over him like something familiar and warm, but the two sentences he had spoken were still sitting inside his chest, heavier and clearer than anything else in the room. He walked home alone at 11:30. The apartment was quiet. Amanda was staying at her sister's place that weekend. He dropped his jacket over the chair by the door. The chair that was technically a place to sit, but had become a place to put things he didn't deal with yet. He got a glass of water and stood at the kitchen window, looking out at the street below. He thought about what Jake had asked. Does Amanda know any of this? The answer was no. And the reason the answer was no wasn't that he had hidden it deliberately. It was that he had hidden it from himself so effectively for so long that there had been nothing visible to share. He picked up his phone, opened the playlist, put one earbud in and pressed play. The first song was something slow and plain, a man's voice, an acoustic guitar, words about driving away from something without knowing what you were driving toward. Ryan stood at the window and listened to the whole thing without moving. He added a new song at the end, something he had heard on the train 2 weeks ago and saved without thinking about why. Then he plugged in his phone, got into bed, and lay there in the dark staring at the ceiling. He told himself it was just one conversation. Jake had a way of making things feel more significant than they were. By Monday, everything would settle back to normal. The job would feel manageable again. The future would look clean and navigable, and this particular quiet discomfort would compress itself back into the background where he had always stored it. He believed that. He went to sleep believing it. He was wrong. Monday came and the job felt exactly the same, which was the problem. He sat in a project review meeting for 90 minutes. The conversation was about timelines, vendor delays, a client who kept moving the goalposts. Standard, manageable. He spoke when it was his turn, made the right points, stayed on task. And the whole time underneath everything, a single question ran on a quiet loop. Is this it? Not dramatically, not with despair attached to it. Just a clean, flat, honest question sitting at the bottom of every hour. Is this it? Is this the thing? Is this what the 30 years look like? He had never let that question get loud before. He had always caught it early and replaced it with something useful. A task, a goal, the next item on the list. But Jake had moved something on Saturday night. Something small but load-bearing. And now the question had room it didn't have before. He ate lunch at his desk. He opened a new tab without deciding to. He sat there for a moment, cursor blinking, and then typed 3 words. Graphic design courses online. He stared at the search results. He had minored in visual arts in college. Nobody at this job knew that. It wasn't on his resume. He had taken it off because it seemed irrelevant, unprofessional, something that might make him look unfocused. He had not opened a design program in 4 years. He did not know why he had just searched for that. He closed the tab. He went back to the project timeline. He finished the afternoon. He rode the train home with one earbud in, playlist running, eyes on the window. That evening, Amanda came back from her sister's. She dropped her bag, kissed him hello, and said, "You seem quiet." "Just tired," Ryan said. She accepted it the way she always accepted it, easily, without digging. She was not incurious. She was simply trusting. She believed the version of Ryan he had always offered her because he had never once given her reason to doubt it. He watched her move around the kitchen, comfortable and certain in the life they had built together, and he felt something that surprised him, not love leaving, not resentment building, Something simpler and harder than either of those. Guilt. Because she deserved to know the person she was actually building a life with. And Ryan had not fully introduced himself yet. He almost said something that night. He opened his mouth once, over dinner, and then closed it and reached for his water glass instead. But it was coming. He could feel it the way you feel weather changing before the sky shows any sign of it. And when it finally came, it would come in the most ordinary, unexpected moment of his week. It happened on a Thursday morning, not a dramatic Thursday, not a day with anything significant scheduled or any obvious reason to feel different from the one before it. Ryan woke up at his usual time, made coffee, and sat at the kitchen table with his phone while Amanda got ready for work in the other room. He opened the playlist. Not to listen, just to look at it. 214 songs collected over 6 years, unnamed, unshared. The one place in his life where he had never once tried to manage the impression he made. He scrolled through the titles slowly, and then, without planning it, he went back to that browser tab, the one he had closed on Monday. He typed the same 3 words again, graphic design courses online. This time he didn't close it. He read through 3 different programs. One was a 12-week certificate course from a design school in New York with an online option. The tuition was manageable. The curriculum covered everything from fundamentals to brand identity. The enrollment deadline for the next session was in 3 weeks. He read the entire course page, twice. Amanda came into the kitchen dressed for work, bag over her shoulder, checking her phone. She poured the last of the coffee into her travel mug and glanced over at him. "What are you reading?" she asked. Ryan looked up. He thought about saying nothing, or something vague, or something that would end the conversation before it started. Instead, he turned the phone around and showed her the screen. She leaned in and read for a moment. Then she looked at him. "Design school?" "A certificate program," he said. "Online, 12 weeks. She set her travel mug down. "I didn't know you were interested in design." "I minored in visual arts in college," Ryan said. "I took it off my resume because I thought it made me look unfocused." Amanda was quiet for a moment. He watched her process that, not with confusion, but with something more careful. The expression of someone realizing a piece of information they should have had a long time ago. "Why are you looking at this now?" she asked. He took a breath. "Because I've been performing for a long time," he said. "At work, in conversations with you, not lying. I want to be clear about that. But I've been showing people the version of me that seemed right instead of the version that's actually true. And I don't want to keep doing that." The kitchen was quiet. The refrigerator hummed. Outside, a car passed on the street. Amanda sat down across from him. She did not look hurt. She did not look angry. She looked at him the way someone looks when they have been waiting, without knowing they were waiting, to finally be in the real conversation. "Tell me what's actually true," she said. So he did. He told her about the playlist. He told her about the 6 words he had said to Jake on Saturday night and how they had moved something inside him that he had spent years keeping still. He told her that he did not hate his job, but he did not love it either, and that the difference between those 2 things had started to feel more important than he had ever let it. He told her he did not have a plan, did not have answers, did not know exactly what came next. She listened to all of it without interrupting. When he finished, she was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "I felt you somewhere else for a while. I didn't know what it was." "I know," he said. I'm sorry. Don't be sorry, she said. Just keep doing this. She picked up her travel mug and stood. She was late now and they both knew it. She stopped at the door and turned back. Enroll in the course, she said. See what happens. Then she was gone. Ryan sat at the kitchen table alone in the quiet apartment for a long time after the door closed. He enrolled that afternoon on his lunch break. He didn't tell anyone at work. He didn't post about it, didn't announce it, didn't frame it as a pivot or a rebrand or any of the words people use when they want their changes to sound more certain than they actually are. He just filled out the form, entered the payment information, and received a confirmation email at 12:47 p.m. on a Thursday. He sat with it for a moment. Then he went back to the project timeline and finished the afternoon. The course started 6 weeks later. He did the work on weekday evenings and Saturday mornings, at the kitchen table with coffee going cold beside his laptop. Some sessions were harder than he expected. Some came back to him faster than made sense for 4 years of distance. He turned in his first project, a logo concept for a fictional outdoor equipment brand, and received feedback that was direct and specific and the most engaged he had felt about anything in longer than he could clearly remember. He did not quit his job. He was not ready for that, and he was honest enough with himself now to know the difference between a first step and a final answer. But something had shifted, not loudly, not all at once, just steadily, the way light shifts in a room when a window that has been painted shut finally gets opened. He renamed the playlist. He had never done that in 6 years. He opened it one evening after finishing a course module, scrolled to the top, and typed 2 words for a title. Still Here. He called Jake on a Sunday morning in November. Jake picked up on the second ring, and Ryan could hear wind in the background and the distant sound of truck doing something inadvisable somewhere off the path. I enrolled in a design program, Ryan said. I told Amanda everything. I feel like a different person. Jake laughed, short and warm. You're not a different person, he said. You're just finally yourself. Ryan stood at his kitchen window with the phone against his ear and looked out at the street below, the same street he had stared at dozens of times before. It looked the same. He looked at it differently. Some directions don't come from a plan. They come from one honest moment when you finally stop performing and say the true thing out loud. If stories like this one stay with you, there are more right here. Stories about real choices, quiet turning points, and the kind of courage that doesn't look like courage until you're already on the other side of it. Subscribe and stay with us. The link is in the description.